On our golden wedding anniversary, I brought our damaged marriage certificate to the Civil Affairs Bureau to apply for a new one. The clerk looked surprised and told me, "Ma'am, this marriage certificate is fake. According to our records, you're listed as unmarried. There's no registration under your name." I was completely stunned. "That's impossible," I replied. "James Carter and I have been married for 50 years. He pulled up the file again and said, "James Carter is married, yes, but his wife is listed as Emily Stone." Emily Stone was James's widowed sister-in-law, and she had been working for the Army as a military doctor for years. I went home shaking, demanding an explanation. James confessed without a hint of guilt. "Haven't I treated you well enough all these years? Emily is the woman I truly love. She's the one I always wanted to marry and have children with." Even my son tried to reason with me. "Mom, your parents never made the marriage public to avoid scandal. You're old now, what more do you want?" That's when it hit me. The child I raised with all my love wasn't even mine. Emily Stone and I gave birth at the same time, and to ensure Emily's son was raised by someone more educated, James had secretly swapped our babies. My biological son was drowned in a pond by James Carter the moment he was born. And the cruelest irony? I raised Emily's child like he was my own, even put him through Tsinghua University. The anger overwhelmed me, and I fainted. When I came to, I was back on the day I gave birth reincarnated. The familiar labor pains surged, and above me was the blinding glare of the hospital lights. James stood by my bedside, holding a newborn and smiling brightly. "Sarah, look at our son, is so beautiful." I looked around in disbelief at his youthful face and realized this was truly a second chance. But today wasn't just the day my son was born, it was also the day James killed him. Panic rushed through me. Ignoring the pain of childbirth, I demanded he hand over the baby. He hesitated but complied. I unwrapped the swaddle and pulled down the baby's pants. There was a distinct blue birthmark on his bottom. My blood ran cold. That mark belonged to the child I had unknowingly raised in my past life, the illegitimate son of James and Emily. James, still thinking he could fool me, chuckled and said, "They say a birthmark like that means he's destined for greatness. Our son will live the blessed life." I sneered. Blessed? I slaved away my whole life for this child. I provided for him, supported him, sent him to Tsinghua, and in return, he told me to tolerate my husband's affair with his widowed sister-in-law. I wanted to destroy the three of them then, but first, I needed to save my real son. I forced myself to calm down and asked, "How's Sister Sue? Did she give birth yet?" James's face flickered with something unreadable. "She's fine. She had a son too. You rest, I'll go check on her." He got up and left in a rush. I waited until he was gone and quietly asked a nurse for help. Minutes later, I walked into Emily Stone's ward, cradling the baby. Emily and James had been called away by the nurse I'd spoken to. Their child's son was lying on the bed, breathing weakly. I didn't waste time. I made the switch. Holding the fragile baby in my arms, I felt tears blur my vision. Even though I had never seen him before, my heart knew this was my real son. Soon after, James left for the military base and took Emily along with him as a so-called military doctor. They lived happily thousands of miles away. When they were short on money, they called me. When they missed their child, they came back to visit. Meanwhile, I was left behind, deceived, holding a fake marriage certificate and raising the bastard son of two heartless people while they reaped the rewards of my hard work, basking in the success of a child who got into Tsinghua University without lifting a finger. Not this time. This time I would make sure they paid for every lie. Not long after I returned to my ward, James and Emily walked in. Emily's eyes lit up as soon as she saw the baby. Oh, what a beautiful boy. So chubby and clever-looking. She noticed the cotton wrap and frowned. Cotton? Won't that irritate his skin? Use these instead. She pulled out a bundle of soft, brand-new silk baby clothes. Then she stepped closer, eager to take the baby from my arms. I pulled back and said coldly, "He's my child. I'll take care of him myself." Her smile faltered, but she forced a laugh. Of course. You're a college graduate, he's in good hands. I know you'll raise him well." Her gaze lingered on my son, filled with misplaced affection. James, ever the opportunist, chimed in. Sarah, we should give him a name. How about James Jr.? Before the birth, he had given me a list of names to choose from, every one of them suggested by Emily. Even the ones he claimed to love were just things she had picked out. I cut him off. No. His name will be Michael Wilson. James's face twitched. But we agreed on Jean. That name is meaningful. I handed him the baby mockingly. Then you raise him. Of course, he backed down. He wanted me to do the parenting. Emily, sensing the tension, added in a strange tone, well, your sister-in-law named him herself. Make sure you raise him right. I can't wait to see him grow up and make the family proud. I smiled politely. Don't worry, Emily. Why don't you focus on your own son? At the mention of her own baby, Emily's expression twisted with distaste, something she couldn't quite hide. I was nothing but a burden in their eyes, just a debt collector, annoying to look at, never good enough. It hadn't even been a full day since I gave birth, and I was told the other child had died. The news hit me like a gust of ice. My whole body went cold. My palms were sweating. If I had been a minute later, I wouldn't have been able to save my real child. When James Carter and Emily Stone spoke of the dead baby, their tone was callous and different, as if it had been a stray dog. I still couldn't help but ask, did he really die? James's eyes narrowed with impatience, then replied coldly, of course. Newborns are fragile. That fatherless brat didn't survive. Sarah, you should focus on taking care of your son. It's the only hope this family has. Emily Stone didn't correct him, didn't mourn, didn't flinch. Her eyes were glued to my baby. Of course, to her, that baby was the legitimate heir. As for the child who died, trash. Nothing more. I lowered my eyes to hide the disgust boiling inside. In the past, I thought Emily's obsession with my child was born from grief for her dead husband and stillborn baby. But now, knowing the truth, I finally understood. Their behavior made perfect, horrifying sense. I swallowed my revulsion and sent them away with a few polite words. Then I went to the morgue. The child was their Emily Stone's biological son, the one they drowned. I took a long, steady look and confirmed it. On my way back, I took a quiet hallway, but fate wasn't done with me. I caught them. James Carter and Emily Stone, tangled together in the shadows, kissing with the passion of teenagers. Her voice was breathless, hanging on to him, whispering, James, we finally got rid of that mistake. You're not sad, are you? He was still your son. James laughed softly, brushing her hair back. Sad? Why would I be sad? I only acknowledge the child you gave me. The one Sarah had at creature was nothing. She's still useful, though. No matter how smart she is, she'll raise our child like it's her life's purpose. Besides, once we get stationed at the base, no one will bother us anymore. You've been dreaming of this, haven't you? Emily giggled, playfully hitting his chest. You're terrible. I couldn't listen to another word. I picked up a broken brick nearby and threw it at them with all my strength before turning and running. I didn't care if I was seen. Back at the nurse's station, I grabbed the phone and made a decision. I called my superior and formally requested a transfer. I was a college graduate, top of my class in the very first round of national entrance exams. I gave up offers to develop in the North, gave up my dreams, and married James Carter. I even turned down a promotion because I was pregnant. But that woman is dead now. The old Sarah Wilson is gone. Even if I had to carry my child on my back, I would leave this cursed place and never look back. After being discharged and returning home, the first thing I did was dig up our so-called marriage certificate. James Carter, ever the manipulator, had forged the fake one for me, while he and Emily secretly obtained a real one from the Civil Affairs Bureau. For 50 years, I clutched that paper like it meant something, a symbol of a marriage that never existed. I tore it into pieces. A fake certificate? Perfect. When I left, I wouldn't need a divorce. I would simply disappear. Both Emily and I were still in confinement, but James catered to her every whim, feeding her, pampering her, hiding behind concern. When he felt guilty for going too far, he would reluctantly play the good husband for me. I was the grieving sister-in-law, her only support. I never said a word. He never saw the fatigue in my face, Never acknowledged the nights I stayed up rocking the baby while he slept soundly or, more often, snuck into Emily's room. Every time the baby cried, he'd groan and claim he needed rest, then vanish into her room. The next morning, Emily would smirk behind her hand and comment sweetly, "Sister-in-law, you look exhausted. Poor thing, you haven't slept all night." She pretended to be sympathetic, but her eyes gleamed with pride. She thought she was winning. She had no idea. Quietly, methodically, I packed our things. James didn't notice. Not until one evening when he came into the room holding an envelope, his face dark. "Sarah, what is this?" Printed on the envelope in bold letters was the word transfer. I kept my voice even and took the envelope, tossing it into the fire pit beside the stove. "Oh, that? The leader's been trying to transfer me for years. But I have a child now. How could I leave you?" "Don't worry, Ivy. Already turned it down." I knew exactly what James wanted to hear. The paper caught fire and curled in the flames. He believed me instantly, his frown melting away. "That's my girl. A woman's place is with her family. With your smarts, our son will grow into something great." He patted my shoulder like I was a loyal dog. "He's about to turn 1 month old. I've already planned the banquet. Everyone will be there. He's the only heir of the Wilson family, after all." I smiled warmly. "That's wonderful. The more people, the better." I wasn't bluffing. The more witnesses, the more satisfying the fall. Time passed quickly. On the day of the full moon banquet, James Carter went all out. He rented out the state-run restaurant, invited every leader, comrade, relative, and friend he could think of. He strutted around in a fresh uniform, glowing with pride. Emily stood beside him in a pastel dress, smiling like a dutiful wife. They looked like the perfect couple. At the peak of the event, James raised a glass, turned to me, and said with heartfelt sincerity, "Sarah, thank you for giving me a son. But as a soldier, I have duties to fulfill. I'll be leaving for the base soon. I trust you'll raise our child well." Emily stepped up with a gleaming smile. "And I'll be going with him as a military doctor. Don't worry, sister-in-law. You take care of the baby, we'll take care of the country." Around us, the crowd clapped, moved by their supposed sacrifice. "How noble," someone whispered. "Putting the nation above personal comfort." I clenched my fists so hard my nails cut into my palms. James had the gall to play the hero, this man who once begged me to give up my career, to stay home and serve his ambition. And now, he had the audacity to act like some tragic patriot, forced to leave his child behind. The leaders were impressed. The guests were charmed. But they hadn't seen what I had seen. And they had no idea what I had planned next. Even comrade Emily treated the child like her own, which, to the guests, was a symbol of family harmony. One of the officers smiled kindly and said, "James, with such a loving household, the organization can rest easy assigning you such a crucial task." James Carter was practically beaming with pride, grinning ear to ear. A distant relative held the baby and chuckled as he looked closer, then turned to me. "Sarah, this little guy really looks like you. He's going to be a heartbreaker when he grows up." Emily Stone, who had been standing nearby, heard that and stiffened. Her eyes flared with jealousy as she snatched the baby from the relative's hands. "Boys should look like their fathers," she snapped. "He and James are clearly two peas in a pod." The relative looked at me, flustered. I gave a soft smile, saying nothing. Emily clung to the baby like she couldn't bear to part with him. It was clear she wanted to soak in the feeling of motherhood one last time before leaving. But barely 2 minutes had passed when the child suddenly let out a piercing wail, staring directly into her face, then screamed. A wet warmth spread through the swaddle, and Emily shrieked in horror. The relative reached to help. "It's just let me change the diaper." Emily flinched and quickly shoved the baby away in disgust, watching from a distance. She adored the child, but she never wanted the responsibility. That's why she'd thrown him into my arms from the beginning. But the moment the diaper was pulled down, her expression went sheet white, and she let out a blood-curdling scream. James rushed over. "What is it? What are you yelling about?" Emily's voice trembled as she stared in disbelief at the child. Why doesn't he have a birthmark?" For a second, the room froze. The guests looked around in confusion. James's face twisted in panic. He yanked the baby from the relative's arms and examined him thoroughly, flipping him over. The child, now fully uncomfortable, burst into sobs. "What the hell are you doing? Give me back my baby," I shouted, standing up, pretending to be protective and panicked. Emily, eyes wild, spun around and lunged at me. "Sarah Wilson, you switched the babies. Where's my son? Give him back." I pushed her off with one arm, cradling the baby close. "What are you talking about, sister-in-law? This is my son. Didn't your baby die during birth?" My voice was soft but cutting. Emily's face twisted with rage and desperation. "No. You stole my baby. You give him back." She looked deranged, her nails clawing at the air like she'd tear me apart. I looked her dead in the eyes and gave her a slow, mocking smile. "This is Michael Wilson. My son. How could he be yours? As for the birthmark, wasn't that your baby's? The one who passed away." I reached into my bag and pulled out a small envelope. "I even paid for his burial when you didn't want to. Here's a photo the hospital took. I figured you'd want some memory of him." I tossed a black and white picture onto the table. There, clearly visible on the baby's body, was a distinct round birthmark. The room fell into horrified silence. Emily trembled violently, her voice cracking. "No, it's not true. It should have been your baby who died." Murmurs began spreading through the room like wildfire. "Wait, didn't Emily's child die a month ago? That's what they said, but this baby is healthy. What's going on?" People looked at one another, confusion turning into suspicion. "Captain James, care to explain? You said Emily's son died, but if this is Sarah's son, what's all this fuss about?" James turned pale, sweating bullets. He couldn't say a word. Emily lunged again. "It wasn't him who died. It was Sarah's baby, James. Tell them. Tell them." His eyes widened in shock. He tried to silence her, pressing a hand over her mouth. "Emily, stop. You're hysterical," but she clawed at his arm and screamed with all her rage. "You liar. You promised me. You said Sarah's child would die, and mine would be raised as your heir." The gasps in the room were audible. Then silence. Then chaos. "Wait, what did she say? They planned to kill Sarah's baby?" My God, the disgust was instant. Faces turned away. Some people even stepped back from them. The leader slammed his hand on the table. "James Carter, what the hell is going on? Explain yourself. Right now." Emily was sobbing uncontrollably, and James stood frozen, caught like a rat in a trap. "It wasn't like that. This isn't my fault." Then he pointed at me and shouted desperately, "It was Sarah. She plotted this. She said her baby drowned, and Emily gave her our son out of pity. Sarah swapped them. She's a snake. She tricked all of us." A few unsure voices murmured, Is that true?" James jumped at the chance. "It is. Why would I harm my own son? Sarah's mentally unstable. She fabricated this whole thing. He was trying to bury me under his lies." I looked at him and gave him the coldest smile I had ever mustered. "James Carter, do you really think you can twist the truth again? You were the one who forged the marriage certificate. You were the one who planned to switch the children. You told me yourself the one Sarah gave birth to is a beast." He opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. "You even said the birthmark was a sign of fortune. You bragged about it that day and pretend you didn't see it." His face collapsed into rage. "You saw the birthmark yourself. You knew which baby was which. You're the one who switched them. That was his mistake." I tilted my head and said clearly, "If I recognized the birthmark that day, then why did you only find out today?" The room fell completely silent again. Everyone had their answer. "This has nothing to do with me," I said flatly, curling the corner of my lips into a cold smile. "Oh, so you do remember that the child had a birthmark? Then tell me, James, why was he in my ward? Wasn't it you who switched the babies first?" He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. "If I hadn't discovered it in time and switched them back, my son would be dead," I shouted, my voice trembling with fury. Rage bubbled in my chest. Without thinking, I raised my hand and slapped James Carter across the face. "You plan to murder your own child. Are you even human?" I looked around at the shocked guests, my eyes already brimming with tears. "Dear friends and comrades," I said, voice quivering with controlled grief. At first, I truly believed it was just a mix-up at birth, an honest mistake. But what I didn't know was that James Carter, this beast of a man, and Emily Stone, his so-called sister-in-law, deliberately plotted to kill my baby. My son only survived by sheer luck. And now they're blaming me. James, red with fury and desperation, screamed, "Lies. This is slander. Sarah Wilson, you're making this up. There's no proof." Emily Stone snarled beside him, her voice sharp with hatred. "Don't act so righteous. My son is dead, and yours is alive. What more do you want? You murderer." But their accusations sounded hollow now. The crowd could hear the cracks in their stories, the shifting blame, the growing panic. No one was buying it anymore. My voice dropped low, cold and unwavering. God saw everything. You thought no one would know? That you were clever enough to escape justice? Well, God has eyes, and that's why you failed. James tried to shout something again, but the leader cut him off with a thunderous voice. "Enough, James Carter. You've disappointed us all. Your lies are pathetic. Do you really think we're fools?" James paled. "No. Leader, please, I can explain," but the leader's face was stone. "You won't be going to the base. Effective immediately, your deployment is suspended. A full investigation will follow. We'll see what else turns up." James staggered, his face drained of all color. He sank to the floor, lips trembling. The leader turned to me with a heavy sigh. "Comrade Sarah, I deeply regret that I failed to detect James Carter's conduct sooner. But this is ultimately a family matter, and the final decision rests with you." I understood the message and nodded with conviction. "Thank you for your concern, sir. But this won't be happening again. I'll be leaving this place soon. My transfer to Beijing has been finalized." James's head snapped up. In front of the leader, he didn't dare shout, but the moment the officer stepped back, he turned to me, eyes dark with threats.
Impossible.
"What are you talking about? You burned the transfer notice in front of me. Where could you possibly go without me?" I met his gaze with calm contempt. "That was just the receipt. The order was already processed. I'm going, James, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." Rage twisted his face. "We're husband and wife. I won't let you leave me. Do you really want to throw everything away?" I didn't flinch. I had waited too long for this moment. I pulled out the marriage certificate torn neatly in half and threw it at his feet. His face spasmed as he bent to pick up the pieces. "Why would you rip up our marriage certificate? That doesn't change anything. You think just because it's torn, we're not married." I clapped once, loudly. "Exactly. Even if it's in one piece, we were never truly husband and wife." The room fell silent again. James's expression froze as confusion turned to alarm. "What are you saying? We got a real certificate." I laughed once coldly. "Oh, drop the act already. I'm sick of your performance." Then, in front of everyone, I dropped the final bomb. "Tell me, James Carter, how did you manage to forge such a realistic-looking marriage certificate?" A gasp rippled through the crowd. Even the leader looked stunned. "A forged certificate? How long have they been married?" That's fraud, isn't it?" My God, whispers erupted like wildfire. "You don't believe me?" I said quietly. "Take it to the Civil Bureau for inspection. It's a Fakino matter how well it's done. It can't hide from the records." One of the officers stepped forward to retrieve it, but James lunged and shouted, "Don't touch it." Too late. The guards took it from him and delivered it straight to the inspection unit. It didn't take long to confirm the truth. The marriage certificate was indeed fake. Disgusted murmurs filled the air. Why fake a marriage? What was he trying to gain? That's sick. James's face darkened with shame and fury. But I wasn't done. "If you wanted to leave me, James, you could have just said it. But Noyo had me cook and clean, serve your career, while you secretly got a legal marriage certificate with your dead brother's widow and had a child with her." He flinched. "How much do you know?" I tilted my head unfazed. One of the guests turned to me, voice hesitant. "Comrade Sarah, is this true? It's hard to believe." "Is it?" I scoffed. "Emily Stone's son is James Carter's. Not only that, after my elder brother died in battle, Those two wasted no time registering a marriage behind my back. James used a fake certificate to keep me silent and compliant while living his real life with her. I paused, then added, "You can go to my house right now." Their real certificate is still in Emily's drawer. There was no need, though Emily had already cracked. She grabbed James's arm, screaming, "You're just going to let them humiliate me like this? Are you even a man?" He shoved her off, face twisted. Is now really the time? Even she had stopped pretending. James turned back to me, desperately trying one last tactic. "Sarah, please, I made mistakes. I was wrong. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'll make it right. I swear, I'll treat you better from now on." But I just smiled. I wasn't the same woman he once tricked. "Can you just give me one more chance to start over?" James Carter pleaded, desperation thick in his voice. But I didn't even flinch. My voice was cold and distant. "I'm not discussing anything with you. Move." He tried to grab my hand, his eyes pitiful. "Don't forget we still have a son. How are you going to raise him all by yourself? I don't want to see you suffer. Sarah, if you just stay, you'll never have to worry about money, about food or work. Isn't that a good life? Please just don't leave. I swear, I'll prove I'm sincere." His tone was soft, coaxing, like a man trying to sell a broken promise wrapped in ribbon. But before I could speak, Emily Stone, who had been standing awkwardly to the side, burst out bitterly. "James Carter, what's that supposed to mean? Everyone already knows we're legally married. You're still clinging to Sarah Wilson? Some women really know how to act. Just a few sweet words, and you've bewitched a man's soul. How many times have you pulled that trick?" Before I could even respond, James spun around and glared at her. "Shut up. Sarah is my only legal wife. If you hadn't seduced me, none of this would have happened. I was supposed to be with Sarah, but you ruined it." Emily looked like she had been slapped. Her expression collapsed. "You bastard," she screamed. "You slept with me before your brother even died. I carried your child. You told me we'd be together forever, that when we got to the base, we'd finally be husband and wife." She lunged at him, clawing at his face. The two began to scuffle, a chaotic mess of accusations and desperation. Her words became filthier by the second, shocking the onlookers. The crowd gasped, disgusted and furious. They began to whisper curses about James Carter and Emily Stone. James pushed her off, bruises already forming on his face. Still, he turned back to me, clinging to whatever thread of hope he had left. "Sarah, please, I'll make it right. I'll divorce Emily. Let's go register our marriage again today. You'll be the only woman in my life. Please just come back." I sneered, brushing off the hand he reached toward me. "James Carter, I don't care who you marry. It just won't ever be me. Without you, my life can only get better. You're dead weight." His lips trembled, and for a second, I almost believed he was truly regretful. "No, listen to me. I can fix this. We've been through so much, and now we have a child. How can you leave me?" But I felt nothing but revulsion. I'd seen enough of his empty promises to last a lifetime. At that moment, the door burst open and several uniformed officers stepped inside. The man at the front bore the insignia of the political commissar. His voice was calm and authoritative. "We've received a report that Commander James Carter and Dr. Chen are suspected of abusing power for personal gain and violating the rights of their fellow comrades. You are to come with us for investigation." Everyone turned, stunned. James's face went blank. "What? This is a mistake. I've done nothing wrong." He struggled, panicking. "Someone's setting me up." The political commissar didn't even blink. "We don't act without evidence." Then two officers stepped toward Emily Stone. "And you too, Miss Stone. You're involved." Emily screamed in disbelief.
"Why?"
"I'm just a civilian. You can't arrest me." James's facade cracked. Real fear entered his eyes. As the officers restrained them, the commissar continued, "James Carter is suspected of falsifying credentials, manipulating assignments, and leveraging fake identities for unearned benefits. Both of you will be taken in for questioning." The banquet hall fell into chaos. James's superior, livid, slammed the table. "I trusted you, James Carter. Promoted you to commander, and this is how you repay us? This is disgraceful." Emily collapsed in tears, sobbing. James, please save me. I had nothing to do with this. You planned everything. But James couldn't save anyone. He himself was barely standing. As the officers dragged them away, he looked at me one last time, eyes wide with shock. Sarah, it was you.
You're the one who reported me. Why?
Why did you do this? I met his gaze without a flicker of emotion. James Carter, this is your retribution. They were taken away. The hall fell quiet. One by one, the guests left in silence. As they passed me and the baby in my arms, someone sighed. Men never reliable. But life still goes on. That child looks like a good boy. He'll have a bright future. I nodded and smiled. Thank you. I don't care how successful he becomes. As long as he grows up kind and nothing like his father, I'll be proud. The next day, I boarded the northbound train. News arrived just before I left. James Carter had been stripped of his rank, dismissed from the army. He lost everything. A colleague who escorted me to the station asked gently, "You're really not going to see him one last time? After all these years?" I shook my head without hesitation. After years of betrayal, there's nothing left to say. Life in Beijing was harder, but it was mine. I worked, raised my son, and slowly rebuilt myself. And for the first time, I felt peace. On the day of my promotion, a letter arrived from my hometown. A fellow villager wrote that after being released, James and Emily divorced. He tried to find my new address, but no one would help him. He had nothing left. Emily clung to him, sobbing every day, begging, blaming. Their love turned to hatred. A few months later, their house mysteriously caught fire. Both were found dead in the ashes. It was said Emily dragged James down with her. The villager added that James had left behind a passbook and savings. As his legal wife, it technically belonged to me. He asked if I wanted to return for the funeral. Neither of them had family left. I thought for a moment. I paid for the burial. That was enough. The past is smoke and ashes. I won't look back. My son pointed to the windowsill, babbling excitedly. Sunlight poured in through the glass, warm and golden. I smiled, lifting him in my arms. I had no regrets. Sarah Wilson was finally free.